Moran, and I do this every Monday through Friday, noon till whenever we're done, whenever the news runs out, because that's what this show is about. This show is about all the hot topics, current events, trends, headlines, whatever it is that people are buzzing about. I try to put together a little list, and then I sit down here in front of my little camera, and I give it to you. That's right. It's hot takes. It's quick hot takes and, explanations as to why other people are running around with hot takes on things that you don't know anything about. Tune into the show, and you'll know what they're talking about. That's really the great motive behind the show. I don't want to. I hate being the guy where somebody goes, "Hey, did you hear about this?" And you're like, "No, tell me, person who's way more informed than I." I don't like that. I don't like being that guy. I can't imagine that you do either. So this show is designed to get you all caught up on everything that people are buzzing about. So that should you find yourself in that situation, you can say, in fact, I do know what that's about because I listen to High Noon with Pugs Moran every Monday through Friday, noon till whatever. Today, by the way, today might be a little bit shorter show because I've got some stuff to do this afternoon. By short, I mean, it's not going to be 2 hours plus. Yeah, okay, it definitely can't be that because I got to be on the road by 2:10, something like that. So let's get started. Let's see who's here. Hi, Adam. Adam's here hanging out. Jeff's here hanging out. Byron's here hanging out. Come on, I'll give you a couple of seconds. Let's fill in the chat room. Take a sip of my disappointment soda. That's right, I call it disappointment soda because I bought a whole bunch. So I love at the Kroger. First of all, I love Coke Zero. I also love Pepsi Zero. I really don't care. They're both very good. But they're like $3 a bottle now because of inflation. Thanks, Joe Biden, or whatever. What I don't know who's to blame for it, but that seems to be the call that we're all shouting out. So I buy at Kroger. I buy the generic 0-calorie cola. And it's very good. In fact, I've been buying it so much. It's like 89 cents a bottle as opposed to $3 a bottle. So, I buy that. So I call this disappointment soda because I scooped up what I thought were the remaining 4 2-liter bottles of Kroger brand Zero. So I think it's Big K Cola Zero. So I scooped up what I thought were the last 4 bottles of it, and hidden in there was a root beer, a diet root beer, not even a zero, not even a root beer zero, just like regular old-timey 1990s diet root beer. I opened the bottle and started drinking it. And I thought it was Coke. I thought it was Zero. I thought it was a generic Coke Zero, and it's not. It's a disappointment soda. All right, let's get started here with what today is all about. Oh, I should also mention, we do a second stream. If you just can't get enough of this one, we do a second stream every Monday through Thursday evening at 9 o'clock. That's called Pugs and Parker. It's myself and James Parker, and it's more conversational. It's also current events driven. Although not always. Like last night we did like a whole hour on uncomfortable questions where he just asked me a bunch of uncomfortable questions, and it was fun. It was fun, but it certainly wouldn't be called current events driven. Mostly it is. We chop it up over topics and all that kind of stuff. This one is just me screaming into a camera for 2 hours. So let's get that started, shall we? It is high noon for the 24th day of January, year of our Lord, 2022. January 24th is, say it with me, the 24th day of the year. That's right. 24th day of the year, 341 days remaining until the end of the year. On this day in history, this is how we do it. Before we jump into the trending topics of today, we like to go through the things that occurred on this day throughout history, just to get a vibe for what this day is all about. Then we go into some birthdays. We talk about people who are celebrating birthdays today. Some are dead, some are still alive. And then we talk about the people who've passed on this day. And then once we have that nice little full circle thing going, then we move into the topics of the day. Whoa, well, that was gas that came from nowhere. Uh-oh. For those of you new to the show, and by the way, are you sharing the show? I mean, honestly, there was like, I think it said there were 25 people in the chat room yesterday when I said this. When I said, I went on my plea, please share the show. Like when you see it, that thing that you click, the promotion for the show, when you see it, please share the show. That'd be great. And I thought I made a connection with you. Three of you shared the show. Why can't you just forward it? I don't understand. Do you know how much shit? Have you ever been on my Twitter page? Do you know how much shit I forward for other people just because I understand how it works? I get it. You like the show. You're here every day. It's special to you. You don't want any of them new people moving in. Well, if the new people don't start to move in, then this whole development is going to implode. So we need the spread the word, help us out. I mean, look, we also run on your donations, at least for the next couple of weeks. Knock on wood. I might have an announcement on that. But as of right now, we are still running the shows on your donations. So if you feel so inclined and you can drop a little something in the tip jar, that would be great. You'll see at the bottom of the screen, you've got the Venmo and the Cash App. Appreciate that. But if you can't do that, and I totally get why people can't do that. I mean, no harm, no foul. I'm there with you, folks. I understand. But if you can't do that, why don't you share the show? I mean, can't you just share the show? We're going to start calling out you people who are just squatting, you takers. Actually, that's not true. I won't do that because I appreciate all of you being here. Thank you so much. All right, let's get into today's show. On this day in the year 41. Yeah, that's right. 41. So 41. 41. All right, the year 41. Claudius is proclaimed the Roman emperor by the Praetorian Guard after they assassinate the previous empire, his nephew, Caligula. Caligula was nuts. How did the nephew? Oh, I get it. Okay, because Claudius was probably the brother of another empire. Who's Claudius's dad? Augustus? I don't know. So Claudius was probably. I don't care. Why do we care? It happened in 41. On this day in 1536, King Henry VIII of England suffers an accident while jousting. This led to a brain injury that he would carry with him for the rest of his life, and historians say that this is why he was impotent and why he was so mad at his wives. Yeah, we don't really go into that deep of the story, but you know why King Henry VIII killed all his wives? It's because he couldn't get hard. He couldn't get an erection, and he was embarrassed, and he was afraid that they were going to spread the word that the king was, impotent. And so he just started chopping ladies' heads off. He'd get rid of them. He's like, I need another one. This one. That's embarrassing. But they say it's because of this jousting accident that occurred on this day that caused him to be a limp dick wife murderer for the rest of his life. King Henry VIII on this day in 1536. On this day in 1848, the California gold rush. James W. Marshall finds gold at Sutter's Mill near Sacramento. It was on this day in 1848. It took a few months for word to get out. And once word reached the East Coast, everybody started making that 6-month trek over across to California. And that's why we have the San Francisco 49ers, because that all took place in the year 1849. But it was on this day when it started. There's gold in them there hills. That was shouted from the mountaintops. Probably should have kept it a secret. Probably should have kept that just for old James W. Marshall. Probably could. Anyway, on this day in 1935, here's a big one. This is interesting. Gottfried Kruger had a brewing company, and guess what he did? First guy to put beer in a can. That's right. Imagine that can. Ugh. Imagine. I was watching. I rewatched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino's movie about Hollywood in the 1960s and the lead up to the Manson murders and all that. Oh, such a good movie. Such a good movie. Anyway, more on that later. Ironically. And in that movie, they were drinking beer, and they were drinking authentic 1970s beer cans before aluminum. Aluminum wasn't always around, and those beer cans looked so gross, like the 1970s beer cans. They looked like a can of soup. It was basically the same can as a Campbell's soup can, except that there was beer in it. Imagine what the 1935 Kruger Brewing Company can of beer looked like. Imagine what it tasted like. I mean, it had to taste like tin, right, or whatever. I don't know, but it's a great man there. Great man. Changed the way that men imbibed in their favorite libation. On this day in 1972, okay, this one I like. This is a story. I've heard tell of this tale throughout life. People make mention of it. Never really had the details of it, but always went, that's weird. It was on this day in 1972 that Japanese Sergeant Soshi Yoki is found hiding in a Guam jungle where he had been since the end of World War II. Dude thought the war was still going on. 1972, 28 years. 28 years this dude lived in a hole thinking that he was still fighting for Japan, even though Guam, Guam was Guam. Well, actually, I don't know what Guam is today. So what does that mean? What is Guam? Guam is just like a rock in the eye. I don't know. It's an island. Is it nice? I don't know anybody who goes there on vacation. And I do know that it's like, is it an American protectorate or is it I don't know. I don't know anybody who goes there on vacation. So I don't know anything about Guam. But anyway, he was found in here. Let me read you the story on this guy. This crazy old Japanese guy who lived in the jungle for 28 years thinking the war was still going on. On the evening of January 24th, 1972, Yoki was discovered by two local men checking shrimp traps along a small river on Talafalolo Island. They had assumed that Yoki was a villager, but he thought his life was in danger and he attacked them because he was still at war. They managed to subdue him and carried him out of the jungle. Yoki later said that he expected the local men to kill him at first, but was surprised when instead they allowed him to eat hot soup at their home before turning him over to the authorities. He was in relatively good health, but slightly anemic due to a lack of salt in his diet, this according to doctors at Guam Memorial Hospital. His diet included nuts, mangoes, papaya, shrimp, snails, frogs. Everything sounds all right until you get to the frogs, and then you're like, okay, but, I guess if I was living in a hole for 28 years, frogs might be all right. But then it adds the staple of his diet. Rats! He ate rats! He ate a bunch of rats. Now, when he was returned to Japan, what the hell am I doing? Well, weird enunciation. When he returned to Japan, he famously said, "It is with much embarrassment that I return." That's his quote. And apparently, I'm not Japanese, and neither are you, I don't think. But in Japanese culture, like to this day, that's still a saying. Like they still say that it is with much embarrassment that I return. It's like a very common saying in Japan because of this dude. It is with much embarrassment that I return, he said upon his return to Japan in March of 1972. Here you go. The remark quickly became a popular saying in Japan. He had known since 1952 that World War II had ended, but feared coming out of hiding, explaining that we Japanese soldiers were told to prefer death to the disgrace of getting captured. Yoki was one of the last 3 Japanese holdout soldiers discovered. So there were more. Okay. But that's these guys. Now I need to know the story of the other 2, right? Were they with him? Were they not with him, but also, the story of Yoki, he was hiding out after the war with 10 other soldiers. And the other 9 Japanese soldiers at some point went, yeah, I haven't heard bombs in like a decade. There are no I don't know if we're still at war. And they just left and just went back into the normal world. Meanwhile, Yoki was like, I don't trust them. On this day in 1984, the Apple computer places the Macintosh personal computer on sale in the United States for the first time. On this day in 1989, notorious serial killer Ted Bundy, with over 30 known victims, is executed by the electric chair in the state of Florida. That was 1989, huh? I seem to remember Ted Bundy. That doesn't seem like it was that long ago. You're old. That's my co-host, schizophrenic me. He sometimes jumps in and dumps a bucket of cold water of reality on me. Yeah, I guess I am that old. On this day in 2003, the United States Department of Homeland Security officially opens for business. That's right, a whole new department was created after 9/11. And I don't know, put billions of dollars into Homeland Security, and they came up with a multicolored graph to tell us how we should feel about things. It's yellow today. You should feel pretty good. What was it? Was red the worst? Orange? I don't know. Remember those? There was a period of time for about 5 years where the news would tell you first and foremost, like what color it was, like what level of alert we were at. They ditched that really quick. On this day in 2018, former Dr. Larry Nassar is sentenced up to 175 years in prison for molesting all of our gymnasts. You remember this guy, this Michigan State weirdo? He molested, oh God, a doctor. Yeah. I don't want to go into that guy. All right, so that was on this day in 2018. What else do we have here? Should we get to some birthdays? Yeah, let's talk about some people celebrating birthdays. Born on this day. He's dead now, but kind of dig this dude. I got to tell you, although I imagine he's a terrible, terrible human, I kind of, the legend, the mythology that surrounds him, kind of dig him. Born on this day in 1905, J. Howard Marshall. You guys know who J. Howard Marshall is? He's the creepy old billionaire who married Anna Nicole Smith. Okay, but how did he make his millions? Well, he was, the Koch brothers. He was like he funded them. He was like, he owned oil. An oil guy down there in South Texas. But more to the point, he was with his first wife for like 31 years. And then they divorced in like 1961 or 62 or something like that, raised a family. They did that whole thing. And then he had a lot of money, and he was like in his late 50s, and he was like, I'm going to start partying. So he started partying with strippers. I mean, he was just, he like lived at Houston strip clubs from the 1960s all the way. He had one stripper lady that he met in like 1982. I think her name was like Lady Elizabeth or something. I read something about her once. But he gave her like $20 million over a 2-year period of time. And this was in the 80s. So he wasn't, well, he was probably in his 80s. Well, 1905. Yeah, he would be like in his late 70s, early 80s. His eldest son had a problem with that. He cut his eldest son out of the will. He's like, dude, I'm an old billionaire and I'm still horny. So I'm just going to use my money to have sex with women that would never even look at a creepy old guy like me. So he did that. And then in the 90s at the same strip club, he upgraded. He got younger at the position. He first met Anna Nicole Smith, who years later he would end up marrying. And was that controversial? Remember that? She's just with him for his money. Yeah. And what's he with her for? I always say that. It's like only one of them has an agenda here, huh? She's just using him for his money. Yeah, and he's using her for her body. That's, the trade-off. And he's a businessman, and he's at the end of his life, and he has decided that this is a business deal I'm comfortable with. So who the hell are you to judge him? Jealous? I think so. Hey, good for him. His last couple of years of life, he had this like pilled out bombshell. It probably brought him a lot of joy. All right. Born on this day in 1970, Ernest Borgnine. That's right. McHale from McHale's Navy. That's like, isn't that all he did? Nah, he did that. Didn't he do another movie like where he played a retarded guy? He was good in that. Ernest Borgnine was in a lot of things throughout the 70s. But McHale's Navy is like the first thing that I think of. He also was in The Single Guy. Do you remember Jonathan Silverman's show, The Single Guy, from like the 1990s? He was in that. Ernest Borgnine played the doorman, the old doorman guy. So, all right, Ernest Borgnine, born on this day in 2017. Man, I got cotton mouth. I don't know why. Excuse me. Did Ernest Borgnine almost live to be 100 years old? He died in 2012. Yeah, he did. 95 years old. Born on this day in 1918, Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts, American evangelist, founder of Oral Roberts University and Oral Roberts Evangelical Association. He also had a long life. He died in 2009. Born on this day in 1934. Leonard Goldberg. Ladies and gentlemen, Leonard Goldberg was born on this day in 1934. Do you guys know who Leonard Goldberg is? If you come from the 70s, you come from the 80s, or if you come from the 70s, I come from the 80s, but if you come from the 70s and the 80s, you'll know that Leonard Goldberg was like everything. He did everything on TV. I'll put it to you this way. His little right-hand guy, hey, go fetch me some coffee, bitch, was Aaron Spelling. Okay, so we know what Aaron Spelling went on to do. Leonard Goldberg was before Aaron Spelling. Leonard Goldberg he basically invented the concept of a movie that was specifically made for television. Now, there had been made for TV movies, but Leonard Goldberg made ones that actually won awards. See, made for television movies were considered D-list actors working for less than they would get in a film, and the scripts were not as great. They were thought to be, they got to be more widespread and mass appeal, so they're a little bit dumbed down. So that's what made for TV movies essentially were. Then Leonard Goldberg got involved, and he started going, no, why don't we get A-list actors, and why don't we pay them, and then why don't we just see what happens? And he did. So we're going to do a Leonard Goldberg draft. Leonard Goldberg draft. Hollywood super producer. With the first pick in the Leonard Goldberg draft, I think the best thing he's ever done, that would be Brian Song. Brian Song, the made-for-TV movie starring James Caan and Billy D. Williams about cancer-stricken Chicago Bear running back Brian Piccolo. Oh, Pick. Pick, we still miss you. Talk about someone who's become like a god in Chicago. Brian Piccolo died in like 1972, 73. He's still a guy. He's still like, that name is so revered in the city of Chicago because of the cancer fight that he put up. And I know that there have been other situations. I know that there have been other cities with their sports heroes who have been stricken and all that. Lou Gehrig, famously in New York. But for some reason, the Brian Piccolo, and maybe it was because of the movie, Brian Song, that it really, really kind of connected itself to the fiber and the tissue of the people of Chicago. Brian Song, number one if you've never seen it, and don't waste your time with the remake. Oh my God. They made a remake like a couple of years ago. And I watched it and it was fine. But for some reason, it just wasn't Billy D. Williams and James Caan, right? That's the A-list right there. Brian Song, number one in the Leonard Goldberg draft. Number two, you ready for this one? The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. That's right. Leonard Goldberg made The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. Young John Travolta, he was a sweat hog at the time, and people were like, hey, maybe that John Travolta sweat hog Vinnie Barbarino guy, maybe he might be something. So Leonard Goldberg, who had a deal with ABC, and the Welcome Back Kotter show was on ABC, he said, yeah, give me that guy. Let me see if I can make him a movie star. And John Travolta starred in The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. Do you remember that? Man, there are very few movies from my childhood that made that kind of impact. And I'm talking about basically, I guess, TV movies, because when I was that young, I wasn't able to just go to the movies willy-nilly. There's The Day After. There's The Boy in the Plastic Bubble, for sure. I just mentioned Brian Song. There was, what is the other TV movie? There was a movie called Fallen Angel, which was so creepy. It was about a softball coach who was like a child pornographer. It was on TV. Starred Dana Hill as the little girl. Dana Hill, famous from the Vacation movies. She played Audrey. That movie scarred me. That movie was like, Anyway, Boy in the Plastic Bubble is one of those. Just for years, that movie stuck with me. If you've never seen it, I would say find it. Maybe it's on YouTube. It is a good movie. Actually, I don't know. Maybe I should rewatch Boy in the Plastic Bubble. They kind of remade it in the early 2000s with that movie Bubble Boy, but it wasn't the same thing. It was the same concept. It was a child who had an immune deficiency who couldn't be out in the regular air, so they created a bubble suit so that he could go out. Oh my God. Boy in the Plastic Bubble was heavy. Number two on the Leonard Goldberg draft. Number three on the Leonard Goldberg draft is a film that I was going to mention just there when I talked about the movies that really affected me as a kid. I didn't mention it because I knew it was number three in my draft. Leonard Goldberg's Something About Amelia. Something About Amelia TV movie from the 1980s. Is another one that scarred me. Something About Amelia, when it was released and put on TV, was the highest rated television movie of all time. Everybody tuned in to watch Something About Amelia. I think that got wiped off by The Day After. I think The Day After became that a couple of years later. But Something About Amelia was about a girl being molested by her dad. This was like ABC TV in the 1980s. Oh, God, was Something About Amelia another one that made me as a kid go, nope, no thank you. Number four in the Leonard Goldberg draft. He did do a couple of other, he did movies too. He did a lot of movies actually, but this is one that I'm going to put in here in the Leonard Goldberg draft. Number four, War Games. War Games. Remember that? Matthew Broderick. That movie was so good. Oh, that movie scared the hell out of us back in the 80s. War Games, number 4 in the Leonard Goldberg draft. And number 5 in the Leonard Goldberg draft, Bad News Bears. That's right. Leonard Goldberg brought the Bad News Bears. Bad News Bears breaking training. Bad News Bears go to Tokyo. All of them. All of them. So there you go. That's your Leonard Goldberg draft. What about undrafted free agents that are going to get camp invites? Yeah, okay, there's a couple of those. We'll go back to TV. We'll go back to some of the shows that Leonard Goldberg created. How about undrafted camp invitee Charlie's Angels? How about Heart to Heart? How about Family? How about Starsky and Hutch? How about Fantasy Island? This concludes our Leonard Goldberg draft. I know what you're saying. You're saying, well, aren't a lot of those shows Aaron Spelling shows? Yeah, but what did I tell you? He was Aaron Spelling's boss. He was the guy that, Aaron went, I got this idea. Can we do this? And he would either go yes or no. All right. Also born on this day. We got a lot of big birthdays on this day. Born on this day in 1941, Neil Diamond, American singer, songwriter, and guitarist. Is he sick? There's something wrong with Neil, right? He's sick. I saw something. I saw he was being honored somewhere on Broadway. Is there a Broadway play about Neil Diamond's life or a Broadway show? There might be. And he was up in one of those opera boxes. This is just a couple months ago. And they introduced him to the crowd, and he stood up, and he was very frail. He's not that old. He's only born in 1941, and by today's standards, so there's something. I don't know, something wrong with him. I mean, we probably find that out. Probably got something. But he stood up and he led the entire crowd in a rendition of Sweet Caroline, which was very nice and went viral. And so there you have it. Happy birthday to you, Neil Diamond, born on this day in 1941. Umbilical cousins with Neil Diamond, born on this day in 1941. An umbilical cousin is somebody born on the exact same day as you. Just slid out of a different human. That would be Aaron Neville. Oh, wait, I can't do. I used to be able to do an Aaron Neville impression. I can't do it anymore. Anyway, moving on. Born on this day in 1943. I want to take a moment on this one. Born on this day in 1943, Sharon Tate, American model and actress. She died in 1969. Now, the reason I want to take a moment on this is because, as I said earlier, this past weekend, I rewatched for the first time since originally seeing it in the movie theater. I rewatched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino's masterpiece about film life, Hollywood life between like 1968 and 1972 or whatever it was. You guys, that's such a good movie. That is such, I realized this weekend rewatching that movie. Wow. I think this is my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie of all time. And here we are 72 hours out, and I'm still thinking about this movie. I'm thinking about how clever it was, how interesting it was, how it was presented from the title as a fable, right? Once Upon a Time tells you that this is a fable, but then they take the fable and they drop it in the middle of the real world and then they confuse the fable by introducing real characters, real people, Steve McQueen, Connie Stevens, I'm trying to think of Bruce Lee, right? All of these people were introduced as real characters interacting with the mythological characters, the fable characters, the Rick Daltons and the Cliff Booths. And so you're watching this movie, and the whole time you're watching it, you're like, and spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, just go away. Just go away for the next 5 minutes, because it's a spoiler alert, because it's what makes this movie so good. And I'm talking now to people who have seen it. All right, I'm not talking to you who haven't seen. Well, hey, you can't talk about a 2017 film because, come on, people, stop it. So we watched this movie, and he lives next door. Rick Dalton, the Leonardo DiCaprio character, lives next door to the Polanski Tates, where the Manson murders occurred, where Charles Manson murdered Abigail Folger, her boyfriend, Wyckoff Strzelczewski, he was a Polish guy, Sharon Tate and her unborn child, in one of the most historic and brutal murders in American history. Certainly one of the most famous. Slaughtered them. So the whole film, you're watching this, and Sharon Tate lives next door, and then you start being introduced throughout the course of the 3-hour film to different members of the Manson family. You meet all of them. You meet Squeaky, you meet Tex, you meet Krenwinkel. You meet them all. You go out to the Spahn Ranch. You even meet George Spahn, played by Bruce Dern. And the whole film is leading up to the murders and the guy who lives next door, struggling Hollywood has-been, Rick Dalton. And then it doesn't happen. And then it's the mythology, it's the fable, it's the once upon a time part. And this made people so mad. I remember, what? So the Manson murders didn't happen? No, they didn't. That was the whole conceit of the film. The whole conceit of the film was that, in this mythological universe, this character that I've created stops the Sharon Tate murders. And people got mad about that. Me, I was like, amazing. All right, so happy birthday to Sharon Tate. Born on this day in 1943, spared in the film, not spared in real life. And by the way, I just have to say, just the performances in that film. Leonardo DiCaprio is so good as Rick Dalton. He's fantastic. But Cliff Booth stole the movie, right? Brad Pitt's Cliff Booth as Leonardo DiCaprio's failed actor's manservant, basically assistant. He's a stuntman and his stunt double. He steals the film. Cliff Booth, every time I watch that movie, I go, I need a fucking Cliff Booth in my life. Everybody could use a friend as loyal as Brad Pitt's character Cliff Booth was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He's so great. But also, I absolutely fell in love. I don't remember it for the first time. I don't remember this being a thing that I went through when I saw it in the film, or in the theaters. But over this past weekend, Margot Robbie's portrayal of Sharon Tate is so incredible. She's so innocent. She's so hopeful and joyous, and nothing is wrong with her life. She's pregnant. She's married to the man that she loves. Her career is taking off. She's beautiful. She's going to all the best parties. She is sweet and kind to everybody. And that is another part of the mythology, the way they chose to portray her, when we all know that she would be slaughtered in the most brutal way possible. So the entire movie, you're filled with this angst where it's like, oh my God, this incredibly charming, beautiful, optimistic, hopeful, kind, decent woman is about to be slaughtered by a bunch of Manson fans. That adds to the anxiety of the film. And when it doesn't happen, and again, spoiler alert, when Rick Dalton chases away, or actually after Cliff Booth and his dog Brandy kill the Manson family members in Rick Dalton's house because they accidentally went to the wrong house. Or no, they didn't accidentally go to the wrong house. They changed their plan and decided that they were going to kill Rick Dalton instead. Well, it didn't work out for him. And the way the film ends with Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate talking to Rick Dalton through the speaker on her gate and then inviting him in, which is all he wanted. All he wanted was to be friends with Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate. Oh my God. It's just such a good film. It's just such a good movie. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino's best. And I'll die on this hill. I'm not going to. You know what else was great about it? It didn't rely on the typical tricks of the trade that Quentin Tarantino employs, which is excessive violence. Oh, there's violence. There is. It's like you go the whole movie without any violence, just incredible dialogue and really interesting and cleverly done scenes and depictions of Hollywood in that era. And then you get to the final scene and it's very violent. And it's like Quentin made you wait. He's like, yeah, I can do this. I can do dialogue. I can do story. I can do all of these interesting things. And I can take you in places narratively that maybe you didn't expect to go. And you're waiting. And I'm not doing the Reservoir Dog or Pulp Fiction thing or Inglourious Bastards. I'm not doing the Quentin Tarantino. And then you get to like the last 20 minutes of the movie and you're like, there it is. There's the Quentin Tarantino violence. You get to see a pit bull chew a guy's nuts off. And that guy is, of course, Tex from the Manson family. Played by, didn't even realize this. This was another reason why I went back and watched it. Because Austin Butler, who is Elvis, who plays Elvis, he was in this movie. And I was like, maybe I need to go back. People were saying, well, he's been good since Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I didn't remember him in that. I was like, who was he in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? And they're like, he's Tex. He's Tex Watson, the Manson family main killer. I'm like, really? So that's why I went back and watched it. Austin Butler is great. Austin Butler is great. My God, everybody is so good. They have so many big name stars, or at least notable stars, doing very small roles, very small little pieces in the film. It's just very good, very good. Born on this day in, wait a second. Where are we at here? Oh, there we go. Born on this day in 1946, Michael Ontkean, Canadian actor. He was supposed to be a big movie star at one point. He was about to be a big movie star. I don't know what happened to him. Michael Ontkean is probably best known to my generation as Ned. Was his name Ned? Slapshot. The guy at the end who strips down and skates. The guy in Slapshot, the star of Slapshot. Well, Paul Newman, I guess, is the star of Slapshot, but he was the second star. Yeah, there you go. So happy birthday to you, Michael Ontkean. Born on this day in 1947, died very tragically in 2003. Warren Zevon, amazing singer-songwriter. Born on this day in 1949, the greatness, John Belushi, born on this day in 1949, American actor and screenwriter. John Belushi draft! All right, we're going to do a John Belushi draft. We have breaking news. The John Belushi draft has been tabled because John Belushi draft, all of it. He had such a little window there, and everything that he did, John Belushi, all of it. Just all of it. We're drafting all of it, his entire body of work. Born on this day in 1961, Nastassja Kinski. Remember her? She was a model. She was, I don't know what she looks like now. She's probably an older woman. She's probably still beautiful. Nastassja Kinski was famous because she had a poster that maybe you saw at Spencer's when you were at the mall. You know, when you go into Spencer's, you just not going to buy anything, but you look at like sex toys that you didn't know were sex toys. Well, that's part of the fun of growing up, huh? When you start to realize things, you're like, that's what that was at Spencer's. But you go to the poster section and you'd flip through the posters and you'd look at, I don't know, Farrah Fawcett. Yeah. You look at Heather Thomas in the hot tub, maybe. And then you'd get to Nastassja Kinski. I had this poster. Nastassja Kinski. She was laying down and she had a snake wrapped around her. Remember that poster? That was her. That was Nastassja Kinski. Born on this day in 1961. Born on this day in 1966, a very well-known Japanese and French actress by the name of Julie Dreyfus. That's right, Julie Dreyfus. French. She's American films. She was in the Kill Bill movies. And Julie Dreyfus. And I mentioned her because she is Julia Louis-Dreyfus's cousin. That's right. They're all spread out all over the globe. I told you a couple of weeks back about Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Her family, if there is a trilateral commission or a new Illuminati, her family's in it. Her family has been involved in international affairs since the Dreyfus Affair back in France, back in the 1800s. Born on this day in 1968, Mary Lou Retton, American gymnast. She wasn't the one who broke her ankle and then still did the vault. Oh, no, was that Carrie Strug? I don't know. They're gymnasts. They're vaulters. They all have the same body and the same haircut. I don't know. Anyway, happy birthday to you, Mary Lou Retton. You're a gold. Mary Lou Retton's a gold medalist, right? That's why she's famous. Okay. Born on this day in 1970, Matthew Lillard. I don't know. I mentioned him because I kind of like that guy. He's kind of funny, but I don't know what is he a big star? He's a name, but not a name. You know what I mean? Born on this day in 1978. Someone who, I swear to God, every time I hear somebody say women aren't funny, and you still hear that sometimes, that women aren't funny, I say, well, what are you talking about? Female stand-up? Okay, so you are threatened by the female perspective or are made uncomfortable by a woman speaking in that way that you've typically applied to the male gender. That's fine. I get that sometimes. Like I don't particularly find females who do female-oriented comedy funny, but why would I? It's not targeted to me. I don't get jokes about menstrual cramps. And now look what you're doing. Now you're saying that's... No, I'm using that as an example, maybe a ham-fisted example. But, women doing women perspective comedy isn't supposed to land for guys. However, I do push back on the whole thing that women aren't funny because, man, I know a lot of funny women. I have seen a lot of funny women, and I know a lot of funny stand-up comedy women who do stand-up comedy, who do observational comedy, who do perspective comedy, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to be from a woman's perspective. But when people say women aren't funny, you cannot possibly be familiar with the girl who was born on this day in 1978, and that's Kristen Schaal. Kristen Schaal, who is not she's not a stand-up. She doesn't do stand-up. She is an actress, and she is a comedic actress. And every time she comes on the screen, I start to smile because I know, first of all, her voice, her voice. She does a million cartoons. She's got a very high, squeaky voice. Bob's Burgers. She does a whole bunch of voices on Bob's Burgers. I go all the way back to her with the HBO series Flight of the Conchords, if you remember that series. She first came to my attention. She was the super fan. She was like their only fan. Remember the Flight of the Conchords were a struggling band and they had no fans, but she was their one fan and she was a crazy fan and she used to stalk them. Kristen Schaal has gone on to do a million different things. Most notably, now she's one of my favorite parts of What We Do in the Shadows, which is, I think, the funniest show on television. She is so funny. She is such a funny woman. Happy birthday to you, Kristen Schaal. I love you. Born on this day in 1986, Misha Barton. I don't know who she is. I just know her name is, she's a name, but I couldn't pick her out. If you showed me a bunch of pictures and said, find Misha Barton, I'd go, I don't know. I'd probably identify Julia Stiles or something. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of these women actors who came around the same time who I just, because I didn't go see those kinds of movies that starred, young, empowered teen girl. I wasn't a thing, I was just like, nah, no thanks. But whatever. Happy birthday to you, Misha Barton. You've got a cool name. Let's talk about some deaths. All right. We got some weird deaths. Definitely some weird deaths to talk about today. On this day in 1895, Lord Randolph Churchill, English lawyer, politician. He was Chancellor of the Exchequer there in England. He was Winston Churchill's dad. That's right. On this day in 1895, Lord Randolph Churchill died. On this day in 1965, Winston Churchill died. What? Father and son died on the exact same day? Now, Winston Churchill's dad died in his 40s, and Winston Churchill died at 1 million. He was 1,005 years old, something like that. But isn't that weird? How could you do that? I mean, there's a 1 in 365 chance. I guess. I guess if you look at it that way, it's not as daunting as trying to win the lotto, but it's still weird. Winston Churchill's dad and Winston Churchill died on the exact same day this day. Dad in 1895, dad in 1965. Dead on this day in 1975, Larry Fine, one of the Three Stooges. Larry of the Three Stooges, died on this day. Dead on this day in 1983, George Cukor. George Cukor. Is that right? Cukor? How have I heard it? George Cukor. George Cukor was a film. Cukor was a film director. He was a producer. He was a screenwriter. I could very easily do a George Cukor draft, but let's just not. Let me just tell you some of the things that this guy did in Hollywood, because when they talk about the greatest film directors of all time, they're definitely talking about George Cukor. He's in there. So let me just run down some of his films. Let's see here. Dinner at 8, Little Women, David Copperfield, Romeo and Juliet, The Philadelphia Story, which is one of my favorite movies. Cary Grant, Katharine Hepburn, Jimmy Stewart. That movie is so funny. The Philadelphia Story, Gaslight, which has people been talking about now for a bunch of years because of all the gaslighting that's going on. That term, "don't gaslight me," that comes from the George Cukor film Gaslight from 1944. What else did he do? Adam's Rib, another good one. Born Yesterday with Judy Holliday and Broderick Crawford and William Holden. That's a great film. Born Yesterday. I don't know if you've ever seen it. That's a really great film about a mob boss and his bimbo girlfriend, and it's just so good. Born Yesterday. What else did he do? He did A Star Is Born. That's right, the 1954, the original Star Is Born that started the whole. Actually, I don't even think this was the original one. This wasn't the original one. This was like the second one that starred Judy Garland. What else did he do? Let's see here. George Cukor films. My Fair Lady. Yeah. All right, there you go. Anyway, the dude was a baller. The dude was a movie-making baller. George Cukor died on this day in 1983. Died on this day in 1986, L. Ron Hubbard. Oh, world's greatest con man. That guy. Got to dot the cap to him just a little bit. I mean, you can't blame him. You can't blame him. He was a science fiction writer who realized that the small group of people who were familiar with his science fiction writing weren't just fans, but they were super fans. And he went, what if I tweak this a little bit? What if I started a cult? We've all thought about starting cults, right? We've all started. That'd be pretty cool. I can't really blame him. He didn't tell anybody to kill themselves. He's not one of those kind. He's not a Jim Jones cult guy, but he started Scientology, and based on his silly little science fiction stuff. And now, now look at it. L. Ron Hubbard. Remember those books in the 80s? Dianetics. That was the big recruitment for Scientology back in the 80s. We all saw those books. Change Your Life with Dianetics. L. Ron Hubbard, Dianetics. Dead on this day in 1993, Thurgood Marshall, American lawyer and jurist, 32nd United States Solicitor General. He died in 1908, born on this day in 1993. When the movie Thurgood, right? Yeah, well, really? Look, I don't know much about him. I don't know much about Thurgood Marshall. I didn't see the movie. I mean, I know that he's important, and I know that all of that, and I know that he died on this day in 1993. All right, there we have it. Do we feel like we've got a firm understanding of what's happened on this day? Do we feel good? Are you ready to move into the hot topics, all the things that people are buzzing about, and all the events making headlines? Why not, right? I mean, we got to start somewhere. Half Moon Bay. All right. So last night we do the show at 9:00. We do the Pugs and Parker show at 9:00. And last night, in the 2 hours leading up to the 9:00 stream, I was watching the Half Moon Bay situation. Half Moon Bay is a town in Northern California, about 20 miles south of San Francisco. There was a mass shooting there yesterday. So strange. Now, I told you when we were talking about the Monterey Park shooting, I told you how on Saturday night, late Saturday night, after I'd finished watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I like to check my Twitter and I like to see what's trending. I like to see if there's anything big that's going on before I go to sleep. And I saw that Monterey Park, California was trending. But I also saw that it was trending with Lunar New Year. So I just figured it's Chinese New Year. That's probably there's probably some big party going on, whatever, right? So I ignored it. Woke up the next morning, found out I was wrong. Shouldn't have ignored it. Should have clicked on it. Should have seen why Monterey Park was trending. Terrible shooting. We're all familiar with it. We'll talk about it again because there's more details on that one. And then last night I saw Half Moon Bay trending, like around 6:00 our time, something like that. And I didn't even pay any attention to it. I was like, Half Moon Bay, what's that? Who cares? Moving on, right? But then I glanced over at the news and I saw Half Moon Bay was like, I'm like, okay, so now I got to click on it. And I almost ignored the story again because the trend, it didn't seem like it made any sense to me or didn't seem to have any real importance. So there was another shooting last night in Half Moon Bay. And we almost went live with, I almost did the going live, but we were about an hour out from doing the Pugs and Parker thing. And I could tell that this thing was not going to resolve itself. And I don't think that those are the kinds of my breaking news live coverage. When I jump in to cover something, I like to do that by myself. And it's just a bummer thing. And what Parker and I are trying to do at night is a little bit more light, a little bit more conversational. So I ignored it. We didn't even mention it yesterday. But man, so a dude, this is so strange. So the Monterey Park thing, the first thing that I learned about it was that it was an attack on a Chinese party, Chinese dance hall during the Chinese New Year celebration. And so my first thought was, instantly because of the world we live in. Oh, God, someone killed a bunch of Chinese people because of the Wuhan virus or whatever, right? That's my first thought. That wasn't what I settled on, but that was my first thought. That's you can't blame anybody for thinking, oh, God, here we go. This has got to be it's about China. It's got to be about the COVID vaccine. It's got to be about the disease, whatever it is. This is what it's about. Well, that's not what it's about. And it turned out to just be a Asian on Asian crime. It was an Asian man who went into his own community, and for whatever reason, we're finding out small details about the motivation, but we don't have all of them yet. He shot up everybody, and then it's revealed that he's an old man. He was 72 years old. What? That's okay. So that's strange. Okay, so Asian on Asian is not a hate crime. Stop saying that. I mean, although he did hate the people that he pointed the gun at and pulled the trigger, you would have to assume you'd have to hate somebody to do that, but not the same thing. I was like, man, that's weird. Old guy. One day later, Half Moon Bay, you start to see the details. Wait a second, more Chinese people are being slaughtered? Oh, now this one has absolutely got to be something. This is copycat. This is somebody went, I'm going to kill Asians too. That's my first thought. No, I was wrong again. Half Moon Bay, 7 dead, 1 injured. Another old Chinese guy. 2 old Chinese guys on consecutive days lost their shit and just decided to kill a whole bunch of other Chinese people. Now, the Half Moon Bay attack, that also involved some Mexican migrant workers and all that kind of stuff because it was an attack on a farm. But holy crap, man. What is... 7 killed in shooting in Half Moon Bay, California. The only known connection between the victims in Monday's shooting in Half Moon Bay and the suspect is that they may have been co-workers. Police are calling this a workplace violence situation. That apparently he did work there, at least one of the places. He worked either at the farm or the trucking company. He went to 2 different places. The only known connection between the victims in Monday's shooting in the Half Moon Bay and the suspect is that they may have been co-workers. Chun-Li Zhao, 66, was an employee at the Mountain Mushroom Farm, the first location of the shootings. This according to the sheriff's office. 7 people were killed between the 2 locations. 1 victim was taken to a hospital and is out of surgery and in stable condition. 7 men and 1 woman were shot by the gunman in 2 separate locations in Half Moon Bay. 7 of the victims were killed. 1 was injured. It's not clear the gender of the survivor. The injured victim was taken to the hospital and is out of surgery and stable. As some of these victims were members of our migrant community, this represents a unique challenge when it comes to notifications and identifications of next of kin. All of the evidence we have points to the instance of this being a case of workplace violence. Okay, so there you have it. That's it's just so strange, right? I mean, 2 old Chinese men on 2 consecutive days. You would almost, was guy number 2 inspired? I don't know. I'm very interested because that's, coincidences are weird. This is a day of coincidences, what with Winston Churchill's dad dying on the same day that he did. About 70 years apart, though. All right, so Half Moon Bay, that's developing. The dude was arrested. They got him, and they got the dude. Unlike our man in the Monterey Park shooting, who gacked himself when pinned between a couple of SWAT team Bearcats in a parking lot. He gacked himself. This guy didn't. This guy drove himself to the police station and was taken down by sheriff's officers in the parking lot of the police station. So I don't know if he's going to be talking. I don't know. The first guy, the Monterey Park guy, was apparently pissed off at his ex-wife. And he was out hunting his ex-wife. And anybody that knew his ex-wife, or I don't know, we're hearing these details. We don't know anything about the Half Moon Bay guy, other than he may have worked there. He may have recently been fired. Well, who knows? Whatever. Also trending today. Let's do it again. As Ernie Banks might say, let's play 2. Yakima, Washington. Another mass shooting occurred last night in Yakima, Washington. A guy walked into a convenience store and started killing people. Killed 3 people, then ran across the street, killed another person at a different convenience store. That dude is in the wind. That dude is out there. Yakima police have a dragnet over the whole area. They're looking for him. Here, I'll give you the details on this because this one we have even less information. I was just, before we went on the air, I was watching a police press conference. A gunman is at large after he allegedly shot and killed 3 people at a Circle K convenience store and a gas station in Yakima, Washington, early Tuesday. After the shooting at the Circle K around 3:30 a.m. local time, so that would be 1:30 our time here, the gunman then went across the street to an AM/PM convenience store. They still got AM/PMs? Remember AM/PMs? They burst onto the scene in the late 70s, early 80s. They were going to take over 7-Eleven, and then they just vanished. Apparently, they're still around on the West Coast. He then went across the street to an AM/PM convenience store where he allegedly shot into a car, stealing that car. It is possible the gunman shot the person in the car as he stole it, the chief of police said. Murray called it an apparent random attack. The gunman just walked into the convenience store and began spraying bullets, he said. There is no motive at this time. Police have identified the suspect as 21-year-old Jared Haddock of Yakima County. He allegedly fled in a car believed to be a gray or silver Chrysler 200. Police have released this image of the suspect. So let's get a look at him, shall we? Let's see what this dude looks like, and then let's draw all our conclusions based on nothing more than what he looks like. You game for that? I am. Let's do it, because that's what humans do. All right, here we go. Let's look at this guy. There he is. Look at him. All right, that's the guy right there. Yakima Police Department of Washington released this image of the suspect identified as Jared Haddock, 21-year-old Yakima County residents in a shooting overnight at the Circle K on Nob Hill Boulevard that left 3 people dead. Well, there you have him. Can't really, not really a great look at him, but we get a basic vibe. Yeah, certainly got white skin, right? Or is that just the reflection? I don't know. He's got dark eyebrows, got dark hair. Who knows? This guy could be anything. What do you look at this guy? What are you gonna say he is? He could be Italian. He could be Greek. He could be Middle Eastern. He could be Hispanic. He could be anything but black. I'm going with that. He can be anything but a black guy. So, I don't know. That's who they're looking for. Gerald Haddock, though, that also tells you Haddock is Jared and Haddock are both very Anglo-European names. So there you go. I'm guessing he's a white Anglo-European guy. But that's all I got. That's, he's 21 years old. Yeah. Wait, why am I struggling for this? They've identified him. They know who he is. They probably got his drive. They know exactly what he is. All right, never mind. Moving on. Let's hope they catch this guy. He's out there. He's in the wind. So if you're in the Yakima, Washington area, be looking out. Monterey Park is also trending. Monterey Park is, of course, the situation that occurred on Sunday morning or late Saturday night. It's trending. So remember the Monterey Park weirdo. He's a weirdo. Dead weirdo now. He went to one place, killed a whole bunch of people. Bam, 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 bam. Crazy man, shooting, killing everybody. And then he went to a secondary location, another dance hall in Alhambra, California, which is just to the north of Monterey Park. There's a big densely Chinese Asian community there in Los Angeles area. So he drives over to the other place in Alhambra. And he walks in with the gun that he just used to slay all those people at the other dance hall. And he's confronted by the son of the owner of the dance hall. So maybe this is a guy who's just standing at the door, making sure welcome to, Chinese dance hall. I don't know what it's called. Welcome to Chinese dance hall. Come on in. And so crazy shooter guy comes in with the gun, right? This kid, I don't know. He's a kid. I don't know how old he is. Amazing what he was able to do. He fought this dude up. This guy just killed 10 people. He fought this dude off. It's all captured on camera. We're going to watch the video. He fought the shooter off. He took the gun away from him. I mean, he's a real hero. I like to think that if faced with the same situation, I would do that. But I don't know that I would. I don't know. Fight or flight. Fight or flight is a very real instinct that we all have, and we rarely find out which side of that equation we're on unless we're pressed into action. This guy was. This guy had his fight or flight moment, and this dude fought. This guy deserves all of our respect. I don't know anything about this guy. He might be a terrible person. People are complicated. In this moment, he saved untold numbers of lives. Untold. This dude had just killed 10 people. He was going to walk into a ballroom where a bunch of people were dancing and just start spraying the floor. If not for this kid, this dude, and I call him a kid because he's younger than me, but holy crap. So now we have the video. We have the full video. Let's watch it, shall we? This is really, really incredible. All right, let's make sure that we're sharing it. I don't think we need the sound on this. All right. Yeah, because it's that bad TikTok sound. Video shows a man wrestling. I got, that obnoxious sound. All right, so let's watch the video here.
Video shows a man wrestling a gun away from the Monterey Park shooter.
All right, so the beanie cap is the shooter. The dude in the hoodie is the son. The shooter walks in with this crazy gun, and by the way, you'll get to see the gun. It looks homemade. It looks like you got tin foil around. I mean, it's crazy. Looks like it's been modified illegally for whatever purpose this guy had. Look at him. All right, the old man throws a punch. Look, he's got the gun. You see it with like the weird tin foil or something around it? So the kid's got the gun. Now, here's what I ask you. I don't know. If I did decide to fight, right, the fight or flight equation, if I did decide to fight instead of just run out of there, which, God, I really hope that I would fight. I really do. Anyway, I don't know. We can't know. We can't know unless we're in that situation. At this point, you see this? I don't know that I don't shoot the guy. I don't know that I just don't. I mean, how do you not? What it took for this dude not to shoot. I mean, look at this. I mean, now, granted, he doesn't know that he just killed 10 people, but he does know he just walked in with this gun that looks very menacing and looks very troubling. So now they're fighting over the gun. He's holding on to it. Look at that weird thing on the end of it. This is a 72-year-old man. No, he's like, no, you go. You go. You get out. And then the guy's just like, I'm going to hit you in the arm. I like that. I like that little, like that little, you suck. You go. You go. I don't want to go. I want to kill people. You go. And he just hits him in the arm and leaves. Look at him as he...
Video shows a man wrestling a gun away.
Hey, man, that dude, hero times 10. I don't know that I wouldn't have shot him, right? I mean, I guess you don't want to shoot. You could. He didn't know. He had no idea what had just happened. He didn't know what he was dealing with. But still, I mean, I don't know. I've got this weird, crazy gun. I just took it away from you, and now you're fighting me for it. I mean, what are you thinking? I think you're justified. I think you sit there. I think let's say he didn't just kill 10 people. Let's just say he walked in there with that gun and you took it away from him and shot him with it. Well, again, let's just say he didn't just kill 10 people. Can you get in trouble for that? I mean, like, because it's what is the law? Would they come after him? I don't know. I don't know, man. But anyway, he didn't shoot him and the guy got away. But whatever, he was caught by SWAT team about 12 hours later. The thing that we all really need to focus on is that this dude was confronted in his life with the fight or flight equation, and he chose the right side. That dude's a hero. That dude is a hero. We're not all like that. We're not all built like that. Let's see here. This is just popping up right now. I've just gotten like 4 bubble pop-ups, breaking news. We don't do this. We don't do a lot of politics on this show. We don't do politics at all because politics are for morons these days, right? It's all just so divisive and nobody gets truth and nobody... All right, so apparently they found more documents, this time at Mike Pence's house. So former Vice President Mike Pence now apparently has a bunch of top secret documents. Can we just all believe this? This is a thing that happens. It's just a thing that happens. We're trying to make. We're not going to go into it. You want to learn about that? You go somewhere else. Go listen to your Rush Limbaughs or what. Rush ain't been alive in 15 years. Whatever. He may as well still be alive because there are people doing the exact same show. Which is why I don't do radio anymore. I can't do that kind of stuff. Politics is so boring. Oh my God. It just makes people mad. It just makes people mad, and it's like, we're just going to gather all together and we're going to believe the same thing. And we're going to talk about how we hate all the other people. And we're not going to try and grow this show. We're not going to try and build on this. We're not going to be an open tent for everybody to come and enjoy. No, you got to think like I hate that. So if you want to hear that stuff, I'm sure you can go find it. But I don't care about it here. The FBI is trending. The FBI is trending because apparently like a big shooter in the FBI apparently was on the take from Russian oligarchs. Ex-FBI official arrested for alleged money laundering, violating Russia sanctions, taking money from a former foreign agent. Charles McGonigal. That's a good name. McGonigal. McGonigal, get in here and bring your badge. McGonigal sounds like a bad cop. Sarge. Charles McGonigal allegedly took $225,000 in cash from a former Soviet agent while still working for the FBI. That ain't good. Federal prosecutors say the former head of counterintelligence for the FBI's New York office laundered money, violated sanctions against Russia while working with a Russian oligarch, and while still at the FBI, took hundreds of thousands of dollars from a foreign national and a former foreign intelligence official. Charles McGonigal, 55, was arrested on Saturday after arriving at JFK Airport in New York on a flight from the Middle East. A case filed in federal court in Washington, D.C. alleges that while serving as a special agent in charge of FBI counterintelligence efforts in the New York City office, McGonigal, that's a very big position. The New York City counterintelligence, what with the World Trade Center incident and all, that's like the big job in the FBI. Charles McGonigal was arrested on Saturday. A case filed in federal court in Washington, D.C. alleges that while serving as special agent in charge of FBI counterintelligence in New York City, McGonigal took $225,000 in cash from an individual with business interests in Europe who has been an employee of a foreign intelligence service now identified as Russian intelligence. From August 2017 through his retirement in September 2018, McGonigal allegedly concealed his relationship with his former foreign secretary or foreign security officer from the FBI. He allegedly requested and received cash from the individual and traveled abroad with the individual. All right, so that's a whole thing. FBI agent. He's at the end of his career. He's planning on retiring, or maybe it was this hookup where he suddenly had $250,000 in his bank account. Maybe that was what he decided was going to retire. But developing, as they say. ... All right, how about some more ugly news? Huh? Some more ugly. Well, why not? Hey, it's not like we don't have enough mass shootings to talk about in the last 48 hours. Let's talk about one that happened a few years ago with some local interest. Remember the Walmart shooting? Remember the El Paso Walmart shooting? That kid, Patrick Crucius? Where was he from? Allen or McKinney or something? A little hate monger. He drove all the way to El Paso just to kill a bunch of Mexicans. Ugh, Jesus, this guy. The man accused of killing nearly 24 people in a racist attack in an El Paso Walmart plans to plead guilty to federal charges in the case. Here's why he's pleading guilty to the federal charges. Because by pleading guilty to the federal charges, they are taking off the death penalty. So there will be no death penalty as far as the federal charges go. However, he pulled this stunt in Texas, and Texas don't play that. So he is still facing the death penalty in Texas. So the idea that he's going to plead guilty, albeit interesting, doesn't really affect it because he's going to be found guilty by the state court, and he is going to be sentenced to death by the state court. All this does is it takes the federal execute. Now the state and the feds won't argue over who gets to put him down. Patrick Crucius is still charged in state court with capital murder and will still face death penalty in Texas if convicted in the 2019 mass shooting that killed 23 people. That's just what I just said. That's what you just said. I know, schizophrenic me. Thank you. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. What else do we have here? Okay, so this is a weird story. It has to be a weird story because it's weird. So could you imagine having a business card that said pedophile activist? Because that's what this dude is. A pedophile activist and former politician has died by self-starvation. That works for me. Does that work for you? Works for me. Nathan Larson, 41, who ran a campaign in Virginia to legalize child pornography. How'd that go for you? Nathan Larson, 41, who ran a campaign in Virginia to legalize child pornography, died while he was in an Arizona prison while receiving medical care. He was reportedly an inmate at Fresno County Jail in California when he stopped eating. He was being held on felony charges for soliciting child pornography and other offenses. On June 21st, Larson was diagnosed with COVID-19 and was treated with remdesivir. He continued to have profound muscular weakness and later was put on a ventilator, which he was weaned off on August 14th. His health continued to decline until his death. Let's see. What else do we know about him? Based on external examination findings and investigative history as available to me, it is my opinion that Nathan Daniel Larson, a 41-year-old male, died as a result of complications of protein-calorie malnutrition. The manner of death is suicide, the report added. He just refused to eat. Suicide. According to the Stars report, that's a newspaper covering this. According to the Stars report, Larson, who is also a white supremacist, he was extradited to Fresno after police learned he traveled from Virginia to California in 2020 to abduct a 12-year-old girl who had been groomed online. So there you go. One more piece of absolute human trash is no longer taking up the oxygen that we good people need to survive. So there you go. Pedophile activist. Good Lord. Ticketmaster is trending. Ticketmaster is in front of the Senate today explaining themselves about the whole Taylor Swift situation. I'm not all that familiar with this. I'm going to have to ask the executive producer of the Mansplaining Show, one Lacey G. I'm going to have to ask her what this is all about because she does a wildly popular Taylor Swift podcast and she knows all things Taylor Swift. It's a bit weird, but whatever. She's really into her. And you know what? There's an entire economy around being a fan of Taylor Swift. The Senate Judiciary Committee held a hearing to discuss Ticketmaster's role in the ticketing industry after the debacle surrounding pre-sale for Taylor Swift's tour. Senator Amy Klobuchar, Democrat Minnesota, and Senator Mike Lee, Republican of Utah, delivered opening statements and voiced their concerns about the lack of competition and increased consolidation while showing off their Taylor Swift knowledge. I really don't know what happened. I just know a bunch of people tried to get Taylor Swift tickets and they're like, we can't get tickets. I don't know. But if we're going after Ticketmaster, I'm totally fine with that. I can't believe that Ticketmaster there used to be, what was the other one? There used to be in Chicago when I was growing up, there were two ticketing agencies and they competed. One was Ticketmaster and the other was Ticketron. I think Ticketron was run through Sears. I think you had to go to a Sears store to get tickets from Ticketron. But Ticketron is gone now. That's a wiki hole I'm going to fall into later. I'm going to Wikipedia Ticketron, and I'm going to learn the whole history of Ticketron and how they were run out of business by Ticketmaster. But that's it. You want tickets to an event? It's Ticketmaster. I don't get that. I don't get it. I mean, there are venues that don't deal with Ticketmaster, but there ain't nobody playing at those venues that you want to see. I mean, maybe Adam Reyna. All right, Adam, he likes all the cool underground groups, so maybe that's something that you can find. But yeah, Ticketmaster has a stranglehold on that whole industry. Let's see here. Santos is trending again. He's trending every day. Santos is trending because he got into a fight with some RuPaul drag race queen on Twitter, and it's just absurd and ridiculous. So anyway, there you go. That Santos guy. can't believe this guy came out of nowhere and he's just everywhere. Everybody's talking about him now. This guy, he's set for life. He is, I'm sorry, but this level of notoriety, you can set yourself up for life. Now, you may not look, what is setting yourself up for life? Can he create a scenario now where he makes minimum $150,000, $200,000 a year? Yeah. Yeah. Can you live that way very comfortable? Yeah. Yeah, he can. He can write a book. He can do a podcast, the George Santos podcast. He gets run out of Congress and he starts doing the George Santos podcast. Do you know how many listeners he's going to get for that? You know how many looky-loos? You know how many people are going to be like, what's this guy all about? He's going to get, and that means an advertiser is going to pay huge money. He said he can write a book. I mean, my God, he can do personal appearances at car dealerships if he wants. I mean, how to what degree does he want to prostitute himself? He has a level of notoriety and fame now that if he works it properly, he never has to work another day in his life. You just gotta, what's your goal? Like my goal. My goal is a condo and a running car. That's it. That's all I need. When I'm like 75, that's all I need. I need a condo and a running car. I've long since given up on the idea of having mansions and all that kind of stuff. I can be very happy. Going out to dinner a couple of times a week, a little money in the bank. I don't need to be, I can be very happy middle class. I can be old age middle class. And I can be old age lower middle class. That's fine too. So if George Santos wants that, he's achieved a level of fame that could absolutely provide that for him. Jeremy Renner. We got a Jeremy Renner update. Jeremy Renner, who was crushed by his own snowplow on New Year's Day. He's out of the hospital. He's been out of the hospital for, I think, a week now. But man, some details about he ain't better. He ain't better. Like this is not like, oh, he's out of the hospital, so I guess he's okay. No, he's not. He's messed up, man. He is messed up. And it's going to be a very long time before we see Jeremy Renner in anything. Avengers star Jeremy Renner says he broke over 30 bones in a snowplow accident. 30 bones. He was just crushed by this damn thing. Avenger star Jeremy Renner says he broke more than 30 bones in the New Year's Day snowplow accident that sent him to the hospital for more than 2 weeks. Renner, who plays superhero Archer Hawkeye in the Marvel movies and TV universe, posted a photo on Instagram with a caption that read, "Morning workouts. Resolutions all changed this particular New Year's. Spawned from tragedy from my entire family and quickly focused into uniting actionable love." Oh, he's drugged up. He's on painkillers. He's writing this on painkillers. I want to thank everyone for their messages, and he has every right to be on painkillers. I want to thank everyone for their messages and thoughtfulness for my family and I. Much love and appreciation to all of you. These 30-plus broken bones will mend, grow stronger, just like the love and bond with my family and friends deepens. Love and blessings to you all. Renner turned 52 in the hospital. He was injured by a snowplow while clearing a driveway near his Nevada home, leaving him with blunt chest trauma and orthopedic injuries. He underwent 2 surgeries and was treated in the intensive care unit. Monday night, the mayor of Kingstown, that's his show on Paramount, Mayor of Kingstown. The mayor of Kingstown star replied on Twitter post from the show, writing, "Outside my brain fog in recovery, I was very excited to watch episode 201 of Mayor of Kingstown with my family at home." Renner's snowcat, an engine-powered machine used to clear snow, started to roll away while Renner was off the driver's seat standing on the treads. This according to Washoe County Sheriff Darren Ballum. So he was kind of like rolled under it. Like he was standing on the treads and it started to roll, so it started to move, so he fell off and it rolled right over. Oh my God. Look, there is a lot that is not being said about Jeremy Renner. No, and I've been reading all of this stuff, trying to keep up on how he's doing. This is the most information that we've gotten, that we've received. Over 30 broken bones, and it comes from him. But we don't know what else. Massive blunt force trauma to his chest. What kind of organ injuries are we talking about? What kind of What kind of quality of life are we expecting? Is he ever, they're not saying whether he's ever going to walk again. He's saying my bones will heal, but he is messed up. There is stuff that they are not telling us about his prognosis. Everything is just, him, I'm good. Man, keep a good thought for Jeremy Renner, because that is an incredibly bad accident that he probably should not have survived. God bless Jeremy Renner. I like him. I've liked him since The Hurt Locker. I think it was the first time I ever saw him, right? Hurt Locker? Wasn't that like his first movie? Isn't that where we all first went, this guy, who is he? Tom Brady is trending. Tom Brady's trending because he's pissed off. He got pissed off at Jim Gray during Jim Gray. Everybody gets pissed off at Jim Gray. Tom Brady was doing a podcast with Jim Gray, and Jim Gray asked him if he has a timetable on making a decision on whether he's going to play next year for another team or retire or play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Brady snapped at him. So I'll make up my mind when I make up my mind. He didn't say that. I don't have the direct quote. But Brady, well, actually, I do have the direct quote. I may as well give it to you. Tom Brady's response to Jim Gray was a strange overreaction. Let's see here. Last night, a surprisingly belligerent quote emerged from quarterback Tom Brady's podcast, during which he was asked about his football future for 2023 and replied with a pair of F-bombs. So remember now, the question was, do you have a timetable for when you would make a decision? Tom Brady responded to that fairly innocuous question. I mean, he didn't ask him, are you going to go to another team? Are you going to retire? He didn't ask that. He just said, you've got big decisions to make. What's your timetable? Tom Brady responded, if I knew what I was going to fucking do, I would have already fucking done it. He snapped. I'm taking it a day at a time. I appreciate you asking. Thank you. And then moved on to another subject. So Tom's got a lot going on. There is a situation, though. He can't talk about. Tom Brady is in a strange position now because of the way NFL contracts work and all that kind of stuff. He can't say anything. He said, we're still in season. The football season is still going on. He is still technically under contract. He can't talk to other teams. He can't have any contact with other teams. So his decision, I think, is going to be essentially based on the idea of, is there a team that I can jump to that I can win a Super Bowl next year? But he's not allowed to talk to any of those potential suitors. So, that's why Tom Brady's all quiet on the Western Front. And he's mad. Where could he go? Could he go? Cowboys want Tom Brady? Come on. Are you kidding me? No. What are you going to do? What, Dak's not going to be a backup? How much you paying Dak? You paying Dak $1 billion a year? No way. I know they're not paying Dak $1 billion a year. You get what I was going for. Tom Brady, where could he go? Vegas? You don't want to go to Vegas. They seem to have a logjam at quarterback in San Francisco. I'm trying to think of the teams that are ready now. There ain't nothing Tom Brady can do in Green Bay that Aaron Rodgers can. And Aaron Rodgers is trying to get out of there. So I don't know. Cowboys, Dallas Cowboys, another football story. Cowboys are trending today. More to the point, Kellen Moore, offensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys, is trending today. Kellen Moore is meeting with, who's he meeting with? Carolina Panthers today? Carolina Panthers want to make Kellen Moore their... Look, man, I think that Dan Quinn has obviously proven that he can put together a really effective defense in the NFL. But I remember Dan Quinn as a head coach. I mean, he took the fell, all right, but there was a reason that he got blown out of there. Whatever. Mike McCarthy is not a good football coach. I said this the day that the Dallas Cowboys hired him. I went, oh no. I watched Mike McCarthy his entire career with Green Bay. They were my arch rivals. Now, granted, I don't like Mike McCarthy because he was Green Bay Packers head coach, but Mike McCarthy was not this genius coach. He never was. He was never considered a genius coach. He just had some really good teams because he had some loaded teams. He's a good coach. He's an average coach. He's maybe even above average coach. But this idea that Mike McCarthy needs to be exalted and put into this category with the greats of all time is absolute BS. So I heard somebody say, what they ought to do is fire McCarthy and make Dan Quinn the head coach. I'm like, what? Okay, maybe. But fire McCarthy. Look, I'd be fine with letting Mike McCarthy go. I'm just not a fan. He's a Green Bay Packer guy. He always will be in my mind. I'm not a fan. NFL World reacts to Kellen Moore's announcement. Cowboys offensive coordinator Kellen Moore has a major opportunity in front of him on Tuesday. According to Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network, the Carolina Panthers are interviewing Moore right now. Moore, 34, has been the Cowboys' offensive coordinator since 2019. He started his tenure in Dallas as a quarterbacks coach. Judging by the reaction on Twitter, the Cowboys fan base would not lose sleep if Moore becomes the next head coach of the Panthers. No, but fans of the Panthers should, because I'm not sold on Kellen Moore either. Remember, like 2 years ago, he was a genius. He was a freaking genius. Oh, he's the great. And now Bloom is off the roast. That happens. We just saw that. We just saw who they just fired. Somebody just got fired who was like a genius just a couple of years ago. No, okay, he didn't get fired. Brandon Staley. Did Brandon Staley get fired with the Chargers? Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know. I can't keep up on all this stuff. All I know, talk about the Bloom being off the rose. Brandon Staley, he's a genius. He's a genius the way he relates to these young players. They all love him. Yeah, apparently not. All right, so that's why Kellen Moore is trending. What else do we got here? Justin Bieber. This is good. Justin Bieber just sold his entire catalog for $200 million to Hypnosis. They're a new publishing giant. They just started up a couple of years ago and started snatching up people's publishing rights. Justin Bieber closes sale to Hypnosis for $200 million. It's the company's biggest deal to date. The deal for Justin Bieber's catalog, which is everything that he has recorded up until this point, so including his most recent album. Now, all the things that he does after this, he'll have an opportunity to sell that again. But all of Justin Bieber's stuff until this point has been purchased now and are owned by Hypnosis for $200 million. Hypnosis Songs Capital has closed its deal to buy 100% of Justin Bieber's publishing, as well as his artist royalties from his master recordings and neighboring rights. Hypnosis has confirmed the deal was priced at just north of $200 million. I like that. It's like just north of $200 million. So what's like $215 million? You just can throw that $15 million out there. That's just $15 million. The deal is just north of $200 million, according to a source familiar with the situation, making this the largest rights sale for any artist of Bieber's generation. It's also Hypnosis' biggest acquisition to date, covering all 290 titles in Bieber's catalog released prior to December 31st, 2021, including his most recent album, Justice. For us oldsters, maybe we still like sort of wrinkle our nose and scoff at the idea of Justin Bieber being worth $200 million. I gotta tell you, he's legit. I mean, not by my own, I don't know anything about Justin Bieber, but he is legit. I got a 13-year-old son who's he's a boy. He's a real boy, like dirty and smelly and stinky, and he swears and, he gets into fights and he plays football. He's a boy. And he loves Justin Bieber, which is so weird because in my head, I'm like, he's just like a little girl guy. He's like, no, Dad, he's pretty cool. He's actually pretty cool. So, the way I guess maybe I'm projecting my feelings about Justin Bieber from the time that he burst onto the scene and we were all like, who's this now? No, he has legitimately created a career that is highly regarded among his peers and his contemporaries. And we saw the same thing with Justin Timberlake. Remember when Justin Timberlake was just that weird kid with this crazy haircut from that boy band? And then he started doing solo stuff and we were like, oh, come on, this boy band. And then Justin Timberlake became like the biggest artist of his generation. So, we've seen this before. So good for Justin Bieber cashing in. I saw something weird. So I don't know how I ended up watching this, but I started watching YouTube videos, and somehow I fell into China Phillips from Wilson Phillips. She's the daughter of Michelle Phillips and John Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas and all that. She's got a YouTube show where she's a Christian. She's like a born-again Christian, but she's cool. She's like a cool born-again Christian. So I was watching this video where she went and sat with her mom, Michelle Phillips, on her mom's porch. And they just talked about, their life and growing up and how crazy it was with John Phillips and all that. It was very interesting. It's very interesting as mother and daughter. They have such an incredible relationship. It was just a really sweet. They love each other. They're hugging on each other. China Phillips has her head in her mom's lap while her mom is telling stories about this. It was just very cool. But at one point, she brought up Justin Bieber. China Phillips brought up Justin Bieber, and Michelle Phillips was like, yeah, I'm not really, into that. And then she said something that made me go, oh, wow, that's right. Hollywood is so incestuous. China Phillips said to Michelle Phillips, what do you mean you're not familiar? He's your grandnephew. And I was like, oh, wait a second. That is true. Because China Phillips is married into the Baldwins, and Justin Bieber is married to one of the Baldwins' daughters or something. So it's all like the Phillips, the Baldwins, and the Biebers are all like now one weird extended family. Anyway, Justin Bieber, there you go. That's all we're going to talk about. And finally today, because we got to get out of here. Finally today, the Oscars have been announced this morning. Let's talk a little bit about the Oscars. And I got to tell you, I just quickly glanced through the list here of Oscar nominees. And I'm very happy. My son isn't. My son's very upset, or at least he will be when I break the news to him that the Batman didn't get anything. He's a big fan of the Batman. It got shut out. Can't believe. First of all, I mean, really? Not even for like direction or cinematography? I mean, the Batman cinematography is amazing. It's like the Batman looks great. How does that not? I think it was released too early. It was released last March. People forgot about it. There were way too many other films that caught people's attention in the time that the Batman was released. So it got kind of shut out. Best Picture nominations, All Quiet on the Western Front. That's a Netflix movie. I don't know what that is. Avatar, The Way of the Water. No interest at all in seeing this. The Banshees of Inisherin, nominated for Best Picture. I love this movie. Here's how I describe me sitting there watching The Banshees of Inisherin. I'm watching it and I'm going, wait a second, why am I watching this again? And then something happens and I go, oh yeah, this is why I'm watching it, because crazy things happen in this movie out of nowhere. God, that's a fun movie. It's different. It is a different kind of movie. The Banshees of Inisherin nominated for Best Picture. Elvis is nominated for Best Picture. I called that the minute I saw it. The minute I saw it, I said, oh boy, it's going to win some Oscars. It's certainly going to be nominated for some Oscars. This is a really gorgeous film. A wonderful story. I'm not even an Elvis fan, but man, everybody involved in the Elvis movie did a really good job. That's just a very good movie. Also nominated for Best Picture. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Now, this is, we'll get back to this. The Fabelmans, which is the Steven Spielberg movie, also nominated for Best Film. Tar, don't know what Tar is. I've seen it. I've seen it like advertised. I don't know what Tar is. Nominated for Best Film. Top Gun Maverick got a nomination. Oh my God. What the? Are you kidding? That's really? Hey, I love Top Gun Maverick, but it doesn't deserve an Oscar. It's not an Oscar movie. That's like it's almost like giving the best Fast and Furious movie. But it just doesn't seem to fit. But hey, I do think it's smart because nobody gives a shit about the Oscars anymore. Why? Well, mainly because the Oscars for years have done nothing but honor films that nobody went and saw. So this year, 2 major blockbusters nominated for Best Film, which is different for the Oscars. You've got Avatar and you've got Top Gun Maverick, both nominated. Triangle of Sadness is also nominated for Best Picture. I don't know what that is. Woman Talking, also nominated for Best Picture. All I can tell you is probably won't see that one. There's nothing about the title, Women Talking, that makes me interested. Frances McDormand, love her. I don't want to see her in a movie called Women Talking. So let's go to my pick for Best Picture, okay? Banshees of Inisherin is so good. It is so good. Elvis is so good. So good. Top Gun Maverick is so fun. So, you've got those. You guys, Everything Everywhere All at Once is by far the best movie I saw last year. That movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is nominated for more Oscars, I think, than anything else this year. I am so happy to see that other people are going, whoa, that movie's crazy. You know what it is? Here, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Here's how I would describe it. It's The Matrix meets Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That's what it is. It's The Matrix. And also, I was totally wrong about this movie. Like, I thought, oh, it's another one of these South Korean movies. I don't know if I want to read subtitles for an entire movie. It ain't that. It's an American movie. It just happens to be directed by South Korean directors, and it stars Asian people. Michelle Yeoh as the lead. Now, we all know who Michelle Yeoh. Well, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. We all know who Michelle Yeoh is. Michelle Yeoh has been the world. She is. I read this thing about Michelle Yeoh. There is no bigger female action star globally in history that has made more money at the box office than Michelle Yeoh. Now, Michelle Yeoh, of course, she came up in the 80s and the 90s. She was in all the Jackie Chan movies. She was his hot girl sidekick in all the Jackie Chan movies. But she went on and she made all of these martial arts films. And then she did a whole bunch of things, in America, where she transitioned into a regular dramatic actress and all that. But here she is again. And by the way, this is the first time you've ever seen Michelle Yeoh look like her age, because Michelle Yeoh is another one of these people who is 60 something years old who looks 35 and has been gorgeous her whole life. Not in this. In this, she plays a lower middle class laundromat owner in Los Angeles, Chinese immigrant laundromat owner. She's not glamorous. She doesn't look beautiful. Although there is an interesting. So Everything Everywhere All at Once means, the multiverse, how the idea that every possibility is happening concurrently with what you deem to be your reality. Heady stuff, I know. But in one of the universes in Everything Everywhere All at Once, the Michelle Yeoh character, she's playing this character. In one of her realities, she's Michelle Yeoh. She's actually the actress playing. Ow! It's so much fun. Jamie Lee Curtis, who is also being mentioned for a whole bunch of things, is so good. So if you haven't seen it yet, don't be afraid. It's not all sub. There are some subtitles. There's some, because some of the one of the people is a Chinese immigrant. He doesn't speak any English, but it's in English. Oh, and also Short Round stars Short Round. Remember Short Round from Indiana Jones, the little kid, Indiana Jones's little assistant from the Indiana Jones movies? Short Round is all grown up, and he deserves an Oscar. Short Round is amazing in this. I don't know what his name is. That's too bad. It's, why? Because I'm a white American who was not exposed to a whole bunch of Asian names. So when I see Asian names that are using letter combinations that are not familiar to me, being, Euro sort of slanted, I have difficulty. So I don't know the dude's name. So I call him Short Round. But anyway, those are the Best Picture nominations. Best Picture, Martin McDonagh, Banshees of Inisherin, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Schneider, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, Steven Spielberg, Fabelmans, Todd Field, Tar, and then Ruben Ostrand for Triangle of Sadness. The Daniels for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is the most spectacular looking film and probably the best directed film of the year. And I recognize here that Baz Luhrmann for Elvis was completely snubbed, because that would have been second as far as, movies that I think the director really deserves something. But I guess they had to make room for Steven Spielberg because, he's Steven Spielberg. The Daniels, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once should win. Austin Butler, lead actor for Elvis. Colin Farrell, Banshees of Inisherin. Brendan Fraser, The Whale. Paul Mescal, After Sun, and Bill Nye for Living. All right, based on these, for me, it comes down to Austin Butler and Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell, Banshees of Inisherin versus Austin Butler. I loved Colin Farrell, Banshees of Inisherin, but this award is going to Austin Butler as Elvis. He was so good. Lead actress, Cate Blanchett for Tar. Anna de Armas for Blonde. Andrea Riseborough for To Leslie. Michelle Williams, The Fabelmans. And ladies and gentlemen, I give you this year's Oscar winner, Michelle Yeoh, for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. She is so good as this multiverse jumping She knows her karate and stuff, so when she jumps into other things, she becomes the Michelle Yeoh that we remember from the Jackie Chan movies. It's pretty great. It's pretty great. I'm guessing that a lot of you are probably surprised to learn that that's what that movie's about, because it looks like a small movie about Chinese people who run a laundromat. If you didn't know anything about the movie, you'd be like, oh, it's a think piece about the Chinese immigrant. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's basically a Marvel superhero movie. Again, remember, think Matrix meets Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Best Supporting Actress, Angela Bassett for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Hong Chow for The Whale. Carrie Condon for The Banshees of Inisherin. Jamie Lee Curtis, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And Stephanie Hsu, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Oh, they're both so good. Carrie Condon in The Banshees of Inisherin in a very quiet, understated role. She's great. But this is going to be a knife fight, like the one we saw in the movie between Jamie Lee Curtis and Stephanie Hsu. For Stephanie Hsu plays the daughter. She's so good. I'm not going to tell you what she turns out to be. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to let you watch the movie. No spoilers for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, because it's reasonable that you haven't seen it. What else do we got? Is that it? That's pretty much it. Wait a second. What about, did we do supporting actor and all that stuff? I guess we did. When are the Oscars? I don't even know. Well, let's see. When are they going to be held? Let us see. Everything Everywhere All at Once, a twisty sci-fi adventure, led the nominations for the 95th Academy Awards on Tuesday morning, picking up 11 nods. It was followed closely behind by All Quiet on the Western Front, a World War I epic, and The Banshees of Inisherin, a darkly comic look at friendship that unfolds against the backdrop of the Irish Civil War, both of which scored 9 nominations. All right, so those are the big 3 this year. Everything Everywhere All at Once leads the way with 11. The Banshees of Inisherin and then Western Front both get 9. Let's see. When is the, it doesn't say here when it is. It's usually like in March or late February or something. It doesn't matter. I'm sure we'll find out. All right, guys. That's going to do it for all the stuff that I have prepared today. Let me see quickly on Twitter if there is anything that we have missed. What kind of stupid shit is trending on Twitter? I say that, and Damar Hamlin is trending. Why is Damar Hamlin? Thankful for all the genuine love, thoughts, and prayers from all across the world. You all hear from me soon. Apparently, Damar Hamlin made a tweet. Maybe I don't know. Also, crazy people out there. The Q nonsense. The Q nonsense out there is pushing a narrative that Damar Hamlin is dead. He's dead, and they cloned him, and there was a clone. So that's the world we live in. That's the world we currently find ourselves in. All right, that's going to do it, guys. Appreciate you hanging out. We'll be back tonight at 9 o'clock for Pugs and Parker, where we'll be doing more of this fascinating conversational chemistry or whatever the heck you want to say. Tip the show if you can. We'd appreciate that. That's something that we are doing now for the next month or so. Hopefully I'll have some news on that, and we'll be able to pull back the listener-supported aspect of these streams. But for now, they're back up. You can find the Venmo or the Cash App there at the bottom of the... They drop a little something. A little tip, like I'm your bartender. You all have a great day. We'll be back here at 9 p.m. with myself and Parker, and then back again tomorrow at noon, because we do this show every Monday through Friday. By the way, our closing theme is, of course, Never Ending Quest. Never Ending Quest by America's favorite singer-songwriter and failed presidential assassin, John Hinckley. He played a concert last night. I followed John Hinckley on Twitter, because why not? And he played a concert. He posted some pictures from his concert last night in Virginia. Apropos of nothing. All right, folks, I love you. I'll see you tonight at 9 o'clock. It is nasty out there today. Now I got to go head out in this garbage. We'll see you at 9, and we'll see you back again tomorrow at noon for more High Noon. Bye, everybody.
got an old guitar, that is all I need. I don't need no 401, I don't have the greed. Down the road I'll travel, far from the comfort nest. I am on a never-ending quest. Tomorrow is another day, the best is yet to come. I have found a different way, so baffling to some. I can smile a little now, things are going good. I always had to be on guard, that is understood. Down the road I'll travel, far from the comfort nest. I am on a never-ending quest. I am on a never-ending quest.